In today's video, we're going to talk about 6 American founding myths. So before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also click on bell icon for more updates. A research on the level of historical literacy among college graduates was commissioned in 2012 by the American Council of Trustees and alumni, and the results were not encouraging. Since the disturbing poll in 1999 that triggered a congressional resolution to revamp the history requirements for higher education, not much has changed in the attitudes of the American people. In 2012, approximately 2/3 of people were unable to correctly identify the length of a senator's tenure. To put it simply, our situation is not improving. Even while dispelling individual falsehoods won't cure the issue, it's a good appetizer for anyone who's inquisitive about our fascinating and often frustrating history. This list of the 11 most pervasive myths in American history avoids focusing on insignificant details such as George Washington's wooden teeth or Ben Franklin's alleged sexual exploits. The myths on this list are as follows. 1. America was settled for religious freedom. In almost every case, the textbook account of the early settlers of New England highlights the desire for religious freedom as the driving force behind their migration to the area. But at the same time that Puritans were looking for sanctuary from the oppression of the Church of England, they were also oppressing all non-Protestants in the New World. This included even Puritans who advocated for the separation of church and state, such as Roger Williams, the founder of Rhode Island. 2. The American Revolution pitted David against Goliath. The struggle for independence in the United States appears to be a perfect example of oppressed people rising up against a tyrant as a narrative device. In spite of the fact that accusations such as taxation without representation had a rock-solid basis in reality, the American colonies in 1776 were by no means a helpless lot. Self-sufficiency had developed both a robust colonial economy and a penchant for independence, even before the conflict broke out. This self-sufficiency had been created as a result of Britain's lax administration of America, which included inadequate scrutiny from Parliament. As the historian Theodore Draper noted out in A Struggle for Power, the colonies had first been filled by private trading businesses, establishing a stable basis of self-interest above the crown. This was the case at the beginning of the colony's history. 3. America's founders were big believers in people power. The people who drafted the Constitution shared our concern with various factions and special interest organizations. Therefore, the famous quote attributed to James Madison states that liberty is to faction what air is to fire. However, the Founding Fathers were also concerned about granting voting rights to individuals in their own right. In response to this worry, the Constitution in Article 3 placed the authority to elect senators, the higher chamber of Congress, in the hands of state legislators and removed it from the hands of the general population. After the 17th Amendment was ratified in 1913, voters finally got the right to choose who would represent them in the Senate. Readers who are confident that they have previously ticked the small circle that is located next to their senator's name on the ballot may find this to be baffling information. It wasn't always possible for regular folks like us to engage in such activities. 4. The Gilded Age in the late 19th century was America's Dark Age. We all remember the jokes from history class in high school, or is it just me, about how the presidents who served after the Civil War were all sluggish, overweight, and sported mustaches, and they failed to accomplish anything politically significant. The problem with this caricature is that it makes the entire time period look like a hazy and humorous no-man's land in which not much of anything except economic inequity accumulated. In point of fact, it was at this time that mass production of steel began. An explosion of scientific innovation occurred, and the United States of America showed its first signs of economic dominance on a global scale. 5. Rural America couldn't keep up with its urban neighbors. At the end of the 19th century, there was a trend toward urban migration. However, does this imply that rural America was unable to adjust to the new economic realities? To the contrary, agricultural producers in the 1880s and 1890s championed technological progress and organized themselves in a way that was savvy to commerce, which resulted in the formation of one of the most successful non-mainstream political groups in the history of the United States. The Farmers Alliance and other populist organizations incorporated modern technology into the harvesting process. organized cooperatives to protect against changes in crop prices, and prepared the path for progressive politicians such as the aforementioned William Jennings Bryan. 6. The Civil War was a moral fight over slavery. Since we are now venturing into unfamiliar territory, I will keep this quick. To suggest that the Civil War was fought out of a moral obligation to abolish slavery is a gross oversimplification of the situation. What other things were going on? The economy of the South was firmly linked to free labor. The Compromise of 1850 had promised that new states may vote on slavery. A population imbalance favored the North, and, to top it all off, Abraham Lincoln was elected president without being on the ballot in a large number of southern states. You figure out the solution.